Welcome to Undrafted Hockey Fan. I am Brad. Today we have a very special guest, and Jake. Jake, how you doing, man?
Hey, man, I'm doing well. Coming to you live from the busy streets of Chicago.
Oh, there you go. There you go, man. Like I said, we're not going to hold against you, okay? I mean, I know you're very close to the not the Delta Center. It's the United Center, right? United Center.
Yeah, you know what? It's like I'm deep in enemy territory. That's how I feel.
I mean, you're still wearing red, I guess, but it's not the same red. You know, it's
listen, you would never catch me in anything Blackhawks related. God, no.
I
am Saving Private Ryan, like deep, paratrooped deep behind enemy lines. But don't worry, I'm coming home.
There you go. Well, yeah, there you go. We're excited for you to move back to Michigan in 2 weeks. So I also, a side note, I was trying to collect one hat of every team. Because I was like, I originally started as like a hockey podcast, and it's directly now more Red Wings and everything. And my wife said, I got to get all 32 teams. She's like, well, the two last ones you can get are Boston and Chicago. And now it's Vegas. And I was like, I have a Vegas hat. She's like, you can just get rid of that now. It's okay. And I've
been bouncing around to all the arenas that I can. I think I'm like almost halfway there. I just did St. Louis. So I collect a different like enamel pin every time I go there. So
that's awesome.
Little, like, shadow box. I'll show it to you sometime.
Yeah. No, you're good. So let's jump in. Jump to this. So the hugest news. Yzerman's out. I mean, it rocked my world. It kind of not ruined my day, but like I didn't want to work the rest of the day. I mean, because it's the biggest news in Red Wings. Everything. So
this has got to be the craziest offseason I think of my entire lifetime.
Agreed.
I mean, between the Larkin fiasco,
Werenski.
Werenski, every single thing.
Byram, the fourth overall trade.
Yeah.
Like it's everything. Like I was talking to my wife this. I said, I think this is the craziest, like legitimate probably 25 plus years. Like the craziest. I can't even reference one that has been crazier. And it's so exciting. It's the best.
Even wing centric. I mean, we're going into this next season with no captain and a new GM.
Yeah.
Like assuming that Larkin was traded. No
DeBrincat extension. No Seth Evanson extension. Like just talking about like now, like even starting now, like I mean, like if you don't have DeBrincat signed at the start of the season, he's gone. Like in my opinion, either he again. Well, let's just jump right into it, actually, because like where did Yzerman leave us off to, and the crazy predicament is that Yzerman is gone, and it's July, and it's not start of July. It is the middle, literally smack dab in the middle of July. Every other team has found their GM, are hiring their AGMs, and Yzerman's gone. As he's interim, right? He's running the interim, right? But like your candidates are gone. Like he, no joke, could be GM for the next potentially. It could be a year, but like it could be ideally it's probably a month, right, or less. Where you find like an AGM. I think we're gonna go over a couple of candidates as well. But like you're leaving. You have no extension for Evanson, who's gonna get paid now, especially with what happened with Leo Carlson. You got DeBrincat. Like, do you keep him? Do you not? Larkin, and we're gonna talk about whether he comes back or not. And I think we're in agreement. He really can't. I don't think he can come back. But again, I would hate to lose the trade. And so he's really, and it's a predicament. It's just tough. And so give me some of your thoughts on, the shock of the hockey world.
I mean, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, this is going to be the biggest like make or break hiring maybe in the history of the Red Wings. Like,
oh yeah,
when you have this GM coming in, like you said, they've got a laundry list of things they've got to do. They've got to trade the captain. They've got to extend the number 2 defenseman. They've got to figure out what the top line forward, like what the future is with that, and ultimately figure out like what direction this team is going to take. Like, are they going to focus more on trying to contend right away and, like be competitive? Are they going to do a retool, or are they going to just throw it all away and figure out what they've got? I personally see this as like a chance for a new GM to come in and see what kind of talent they have. I mean, this is a good opportunity for young players to make the team. I don't see this next season being a particularly successful one in terms of standings, but this is a chance for a new GM to they get a pass this season. This is your, hey, I just got here gig. This is your chance to maybe make a couple of those mistakes and then figure out what's working and what isn't.
Yeah. Well, so I thought the Larkin trade request was a blessing in disguise. I thought, you look at the Atlantic Division, Toronto's going to be better. They got McKenna, and they had a down year last year, right? Like Tampa's going to be good. Florida's going to bounce back. Buffalo led the division. Ottawa made the playoffs. Montreal is a monster
force.
in high. I do. They are going to, I have no doubt they're going to win the Stanley Cup for the next 10 years. Like, I mean, you're going to be better than Boston, maybe, right?
Yeah, maybe Ottawa in like a best of 7, but you know, that's not how the season goes. You know,
if they make the playoffs, like only 5 can make the playoffs, right? Like, and Ottawa might be one of the ones that's out with Detroit and Boston. So I was like, okay, you kind of get a pass. Like, so like trading Larkin allows you to get futures. I understand, like, and you want the best package. And I agree with Yzerman, like getting the best package. We'll do the Larkin later. Let's focus on the Yzerman. But like you wanted to get, like, there's a direction that Yzerman wanted to go. And the theory someone I talked about, which I thought was really interesting about Illich, is like Illich wants to contend now. Or Yzerman wants to contend now because he is like, hey, I've built this. I want to be good now. Like, I want to get a ready now player. And maybe there's some contention of what, like, again, I also think that, hey, Illich is like, hey, I understand you want to do that, but like that might not be the best move right now because we're not, you know, there may be some tension. Like, there's some thought process of like, hey, he said he doesn't want futures, but like futures may be the thing because how stacked the Atlantic is. And, you know, you can build around a younger core of Seider and Raymond. And I wish I had a podcast 3 years ago because I told my wife that we should trade Larkin before his contract. He needed a new contract. And I said this to my wife, and I was like, build around Raymond and Seider. I love to bring Cat, but dude, trade Larkin, and it would be so tough. And I agree. But at least you tank the bottom out completely. Maybe you get Bedard, right? Like, it's anyways. So, go on your thoughts. I want to kind of do a retrospective on Yzerman, some of the things that Yzerman had done. So,
yeah, I really think like tactically the best move is to kind of punt on this next season and then maybe even the season after. I mean, you've got a bunch of valuable assets that could be traded. You know, if an extension can't be reached with Alex DeBrincat, teams are going to kill for a 40-goal forward. You've got Justin Falk, who's a minute-munching top-4 defenseman who's still got some gas left in the tank. You've got a couple other guys with term that could be potentially moved. I mean, shoot, if they really do want to fully bottom out, Victor Arvidsson might be a good candidate to move. I mean, he's still got an extra year on his contract. You know, we'll see how he does this next season, but, you know, you've got a lot of options to make these moves and to make room for young guys. It's just up to this GM and then whatever Chris Illich wants to do. One thing that I do appreciate is that with the Tigers especially, Chris Illich has been kind of, I wouldn't say laissez-faire, but he definitely has been leaning more towards the analytics angle of things. So I'm wondering if they target a GM who's going to be a little more analytical.
Okay. Yeah, no, I like that. And I want to go into some of the analytics as well, but let's walk back. I agree. I think you're going to sell hard, right? I think the hard thing is finding that medium between being young and having veterans. And at this point, I think we've tried the veterans route. I want to try the Montreal route of get a shit ton of young players, bring them all in. They got to make a break. I said this about Kosa. I said about Danielson and ASP. Like, make room for these guys. If they fall, they fall. If they don't, great. Like, it's like you need to test these guys. Like, I'm so bummed on Lombardi. They traded him, and was he going to be anything great? Maybe not, but it was just like you built this guy.
You want to know, yeah,
right. Like,
that's a big thing, and that's what I'm hoping with this GM is you know, he brings up all these kids and gives them a chance, so he sees what he has, whether it's he wants to trade or he wants to keep these guys. Yeah. So ideally, you know, when we get into it later, ideally we have a GM that focuses more on that.
So I want to get one of your things that was the downfall of Yzerman. Oh, and what really, I think, because to me, I mean, I've talked about this on multiple podcasts. I think what happened, I think it was the 2021 season when they signed 11 free agents and traded for Alex DeBrincat. It was after I think it was 2021 they did this because they had just drafted Evanson and Kosa. And supposedly that was an Illich thing. By the way, I will say I know you're a writer, but like I'm a full blown Chris Illich hater. I am.
No.
I am for that single season, and I said it at the time. I said, I this feels like an Elge decision. Doesn't feel like an Yzerman decision, because you're telling me in 2021 Yzerman preaches patience, and then he goes, "Hey, I'm gonna go buy all these players," and I'm like, you don't buy your way into especially through free agency, getting like and try and like build a actual contender. And so I thought the biggest mistake that Yzerman, against his boss, right, let Chris convince him that I have this new arena. I need to bring in a team that is a playoff team, and I thought that was the biggest mistake because you didn't tank hard enough. I mean, we're seeing that with Chicago, who's tanked hard, who has maybe not worked out as well. But look at San Jose, tanked super hard, and it's super working out for them. And I just don't think they fell hard enough. Lottery lock, we can bitch about that as well. But like it is what it is. I just don't think you tanked hard enough. You could have gone for Bedard, you could have gone for Celebrini, you could have gone, like there's these people you could have gone for or had opportunities for these top 5 draft picks. And it's just incredibly frustrating. That's my biggest thing with him.
So I've been cooking up a little theory in my mind.
Yeah.
I think part of it could be Chris Ilitch. I think another part of it was making sure that your top line center's happy.
Oh,
JT Compher, University of Michigan.
Yeah.
Andrew Kopp, University of Michigan. There are several players that they added that were signed to these like longer term deals that were U of M products. I think that maybe played a bit of a role. I mean, ultimately, I think that Yzerman's tenure was sort of death by 1,000 cuts. I think it wasn't one big decision that's made everything sink. I think it was a series of poor pro scouting decisions that really played a role. I love Ben Sherratt for his energy. I do not see the point in extending him until he's 38. That doesn't make any sense to me. I think that the trade for Justin Falk, at the time was really exciting. It was sort of a show me deal to Dylan Larkin to show like, hey, we're adding at the deadline for you, buddy. Like, time to contend.
That's a Dylan Larkin move again. It's a Dylan Larkin move, right?
It's a lot of these moves I think were built to make him happy. And I think that even with those additions, it really didn't do much of anything.
Mm-hmm. I agree, right? Like, I mean, we know that Larkin made that one comment where he said, I don't need to trade guys away to get like a 4th round pick for a guy who I won't even play with eventually. Like, he said that, right? Like, and I understand that. That's a
Mason Appleton. MSU. Mason Appleton.
Yeah. Anyway. It just stacks, right? Listen, maybe Michael Hage. Let's go with that one instead. Like, I'm okay with that.
I wouldn't complain.
Dude, I would not. Like, I mean, I'm not. I was really opposed to Larkin going within division, and now I'm like, can we just move on? Because I would have sent him to Florida for 9th overall pick.
Question, actually, like something I've been wondering myself is, with this new GM, does that kind of open up Larkin to different destinations, or is he still going to try to play hardball and go, no, it's just these 3 teams or these 4 teams?
Well, and I don't want to go too much in Larkin because I absolutely can. But I mean, like I want to hit the next like some GMs that you're seeing in mind as well, because I want to hit Dylan Larkin on after our break. But I agree that I think you're trying to make Dylan Larkin happy. I don't disagree with that. I think DeBrincat fell in your lap. All these people you're trying to you're bringing him in to try and like bolster because they're known commodities, right? Like at that point, you know who Kopp is, you know who JT Compher is, you know who all these players are, and it's like you're trying to make it. It felt like you're not going for broke. You're going for like safe. And one thing I did hear on the radio they talked about was in Tampa he took big swings, and it feels like. And I said this. I like Casper a lot, but he wasn't a big swing. Like I was banging the drum about Zach Benson, and I was like, this is high energy, highly scored, right? Like that was a guy that I was like, bang, go big, right? I was like, like what are we doing? Like go big.
It seems like they finally did that with JP Robert, where he's a very high skill, high end guy, but he is a bit of a swing, For the most part, I think I agree. Like Yzerman did play it safe. I mean, he nailed it. Those first 3 high round picks,
Yeah.
Seider, home run. Raymond, home run. Edmondson, maybe one of the best players in that draft class. Maybe like top 2 or 3. Like Dylan Gunther is going to be probably the best one. Wyatt Johnston, probably second best. I'd say, Edmonton's number 3.
Yeah, I'd flip that, but I would probably say Wyatt. I mean, because
you can go either way.
Yeah. But and that's kind of where I would say with the lottery luck, you're kind of like kind of did all right, like for the players that he got, right? Seider goes number 1 or Jack Hughes, right? It's like 1 or 2, right? Depends on what you need. Raymond probably goes 2. Yeah.
So like 2 of the top 2 players in those 2 drafts, as well as the top 3 player in the draft after. I think where the wheels sort of fall off the wagon is, like you said, with pro scouting, and then a couple of these second round picks just have not panned out. Out of the 14, I believe it's 14 picks that he's done in his tenure, I think only one of them has made the roster full time, and that's Albert Johansson.
Yep.
Which is not great. The statistical odds of a second round pick making it and playing regularly is very low, but you would hope for something a little higher than that at this point.
I think what I read was the chance of them playing 100 games is a second round, or 100 games is relative to that, it's like 60%, but 200 games is like 35 to 40%. And you're like, it's still not like think about the second picks they had before. They had Hronek, they had Bertuzzi, those are 2 players that like popped up, and you're like, that's awesome. But I just don't know. Listen,
I'm a big Aljo guy. I really love him, but I need to see more guys that are going to pop up like that. We're finally giving William Wallinder a chance, and he's 23 now. Better late than never, I guess. But
Dylan James might work out, right? He's now 22 though, right? Dower Nielsen, Dower Nielsen.
Where is he?
Dude, I know. And I was he's a Booyam, right? His brother did really well, right? I think Kiskinen, I think he's exciting too, right? That's a 3rd round pick, but that was you traded Andrew Gibson. So and you got Kiskinen back in that one. Again, I just think there's some really cool picks here, and I'm like, you have William Willander, Booyam, Anton Johansson. That's a 3rd round pick, I think, though. I'm ready to see some kids. I just want I get the grumpy old man off, which is the Dylan Larkin, right? I want to see some freaking youth and some energy. And that's kind of where I'm with you with Sherratt. I'm like, why? What are we doing here? You have Willander. You could bring up Johansson. You can bring up Anton. You can bring up Booyam.
So I actually did an interview with Dylan Larkin a few months ago, right around the Olympic time. He was doing a little press run. I'll send it to you. It's crazy.
You gotta.
The whole time he just kept stressing how important winning was to him, and how all he wants to do is win. And I even asked him a question about if he could take back any players from Team USA on the team. And looking back now, it's crazy because he was like, "Oh, can I just take them all back with me?" And I was like, he's being coy, but
yeah,
we know.
Do you think you would have done the Edvinsson for Hughes?
No, because here's the thing: the Minnesota Wild still have not extended Quinn Hughes. If they were on the same page, they would have already banged out a 3-year deal.
Yeah.
So the fact that they haven't tells me that there is still something missing, or that Hughes is still thinking about something. I guess according to Keith Gave, the Russian 5 author, he said that the reason why Yzerman never finished the deal is because Hughes was supposed to do a handshake agreement on an 8-year contract. He did not do that, and so Yzerman was like, "Yeah, I'm good on that."
Yeah.
So, it does leave some questions, and I do think that sending Edvinsson would mean paying more than what Vancouver paid, or what Minnesota paid for Vancouver.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think I really don't think that bringing Hughes onto the Wings would have changed all that much. Sure, they might make the playoffs, but I don't see them making it past round 1, especially if they're playing the Hurricanes.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. And that's kind of where I would get when I get a Hughes jersey. Absolutely. But
oh my God, yeah.
I mean, when you have 2 brothers who are playing in Jersey, how hard are you gonna peel? How hard is it able to be able to peel the 2 pieces away from Jersey? It just looked like a fallacy at that point. I just don't see it. And when we see it with the Chuck brothers, I'm like, they want to play together, and I'm happy they want to play together. But it's just yeah.
What's really funny is I see a lot of Wild fans that are like, "Oh no, he's gonna extend 3 years, and then in 2030, when Jack and Luke are free agents, they'll come to Minnesota." I'm like, That's great, man. I see you're hitting some of the Steve Yzerman weed. Like, I wish I could think as delusionally as you. Like, that's crazy that you would think that.
Yeah, I you think that Jersey would let them go and walk? Yeah, get out of here. You know, like
they're throwing as much money as they want at him. I mean, he's their franchise golden boy. If anything, convincing Quinn to come there is easier than trying to convince both of the brothers to go there.
Absolutely. So let's go back to the GMs and who do you got as a contender for? Because I'm not familiar as much with the AGMs. I saw that I think you put out a list on Twitter. I've seen a couple people put out a list of who they have. Again, I'm biased on a certain podcast, but I like Brandon Pridham. He's currently a consultant with the Pittsburgh Penguins, which means he's holding on. He's getting paid to be there, in my opinion. But like, I think he'd be a great. To me, he's Eric Tulsky-esque in the analytics side. Great capologist. Like, I like that as a good bet as a person. And then I
really like Pridham. I think if they're going to do a safe bet, my guess is they probably look at Sean Horkoff, who's been in charge of Grand Rapids. I think he's the safe bet. Now, do I think they're going to do that? Probably not. I actually do think that they're going to be looking on the outside.
Over Draper? Horkoff over Draper?
Yeah, well, see, Horkoff's been in charge of the Griffins, and they've just had unprecedented levels of success.
Yeah.
And I think that he's going to – I don't know. I think he's got a little more of that know-how on that angle. But if I were to look outside, the guy I really like is the vice president of hockey strategy for the Sabres, Sam Ventura. He is like a pure analytics guy. I mean, he's a faculty member at Carnegie Mellon University. You know, he's been on advisory boards for multiple schools. He worked in the hockey research area of the Pittsburgh Penguins. I think he's the director of hockey ops and research there. He's been all over the place. Like, he's not only is he familiar with hockey as a whole, he helped to build a lot of those like cup-winning Penguins teams. He's been in charge of a couple of these signings for the Sabres. Like, I think he would be a match made in heaven here if we're going pure outsider. As far as like other candidates go, I've heard people mention like Jim Nill or somebody on Jim Nill's staff. Yeah, I think that Jim Nill's a little bit too old to make those kinds of moves. I think he isn't leaving Dallas until they kick him out.
Yeah.
I think the same thing with Eric Tulsky too. I would love Tulsky. Don't get me wrong; it would be perfect. But I think he's going to stay in Carolina for as long as he wants. The names go ahead.
Supposedly he's the lowest paid GM right now in the NHL. Theoretically, like because of how Dundon is. Like so, like. If you made him president, right? Like you really throw the bag at him, like you could pull him, right? And that's kind of where I'm like,
that's not a bad idea. I mean,
so let's say you do internally, you bring Tulsky as president and you bring Horkoff as GM. Like I'm okay with something like that, right? Like bring an outsider with enough with that can say GM. You're still looking to me,
Now, my nightmare scenarios, besides the obvious ones like Brad Treliving or any of the old boys club, would be bringing back Ryan Martin.
I was gonna say Shannon. I was gonna say bringing
Shanahan would be brutal too. Ryan Martin was with the Wings for a little while, and he just did not show a lot of success. He's with the Rangers now, and look how they're doing. He's been working directly with Chris Drury, which tells me that he's not going to be picking up a whole lot of. There's not going to be a lot of takeaways from that job.
It's Dolan, right? It's the same thing with Vancouver. You're a puppet GM, dude. It's just So it's just not. Unfortunately, I just don't think those guys like their team too much, which I'm happy. They love their team. If I was a billionaire, you don't think I'd be picking at the Red Wings too? Like at my team.
That would be the toughest job. Would be like knowing when to pull away and trying to get my hand involved in everything.
Yeah. I told my wife, I said, I want to figure out how to own like an OHL team or something like that. Like I want to
my roommate's a fan of the Chicago White Sox, and he's like, Jerry Reinsdorf has ruined my life. He's like, he has ruined everything good about his team.
Yeah, it's tough. So yeah, I think I agree on the analytics side is the way to go. I think Yzerman was kind of a little too old school in the sense of like hardballing guys. Like to me, like if DeBrincat wanted $11 million right now, I'd be like, for 8 years, done. Wouldn't even blink.
You know what? If Yzerman had taken over, when he left for Tampa, if he had taken over as GM and Ken Holland would have either retired or gone to another team, I actually think he would have been able to build a cup-winning team in the 2010s. But unfortunately, he just wasn't able to really like adapt to how crazy things have gotten here. Now we're getting trades are happening like crazy. Like if you look at the 4 final teams that were left in the Stanley Cup playoffs before the end of the playoffs, they were almost all entirely built with a core of drafted players, followed by a bunch of traded players or free agents. And I don't think that Yzerman has done particularly well long term in either of those departments. So I think that's where the wheels sort of fell off the wagon.
Yeah, well, I think so. That's what I always said. Like, I always trusted the Red Wings amateur scouting more than their pro scouting. So, like, don't bring free agents and just bring guys that you've put bets on and spent picks on and everything. I'm like, bring them up, right? Like, like I know that like the NHL is not a training ground or is like to like get up to speed, but like at some point you got to start running, dude. Like you got to get off the treadmill and start going. And let's like bring Axel up. You're gonna get burned, man. It is what it is. But I think that's kind of where you talk about with Larkin. You're like, hey, they want ready now players, and Axel wasn't ready, and so they sent him down. Branson Niger wasn't ready. They sent him down, right? It's like, and Larkin didn't probably want a team that wasn't ready yet. And I'm like, yeah, but like this is part of it, man. Like this is how you get up to speed faster.
It's trial and error, and I understand. Like I get it. You played 11 seasons with the team. You went through some pretty dark seasons, but you should be expecting it at this point. And if you really wanted to make the playoffs, maybe score more than 9 5v5 points since December 1st.
Yes,
that might help.
Yeah, I agree, right? Like, and it's funny. I always said that Larkin and Raymond, if they had competent people, I said they were both 100-point players. I think they can absolutely be 100-point players. Like, again, you're running Finney up there. You put Rasmussen up there 2 years ago. Like, they're just like there's not enough talent, unfortunately, around. And like to even like you're just not enough talent to make Larkin look good because I don't think he's good enough in his own sense. Like, I don't know, like, and like. And the depth, like you put Larkin in so many defensive positions because you don't trust anyone else to do good defensive positions. So like then that brings us to the point. I don't know. I'm so incredibly frustrated. I'm just like, let's jump into break. We can talk about Larkin on the other side. And kind of again we'll break down even more of what we're doing here. So let's take a quick break right after this. It comes all down to this: a best of 7 battle, and DraftKings has you covered every step of the way. DraftKings Sportsbook app is now available in all 50 states, including all markets. Sweat every shift of the series all in one place with one app. New DraftKings customers sign up with the code THPN. Spend $5 to get 200 in rewards within 21 days. That's code THPN. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Bet with DK Sportsbook. DK Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, 1-800-MY-RESET. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777. Visit cpg.org. On behalf of Blue Hill Casino in Kansas, bet tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 plus void in Ontario. Event contract trading with DraftKings predictions involves risk and of loss. Sportsbook bonus bets expire in 7 days. $50 in prediction dollars issued weekly for 3 weeks. Expire in 1 year. Redeem one non-withdrawable reward. Availability varies. Predictions offer void in New York. Ends June 28th. Terms at dkng.co/audio. All right, Jake, we're back at it. The script was different than normal, so I had to get back at it. So, anyways, jumping into it. So, talking about Larkin. So, should he stay or should he go? So, I think. We kind of talked about this on Twitter a little bit. I think with Larkin, so I think I saw polls. I saw like Hockey Time Rundown did this, and I was like, I think the only way you and I think we're both leaning towards Larkin's gone. I mean, but I said if you're gonna have Larkin there because you're not getting the package, you could bring him back, you ship to C, and you trade him sometime throughout the season. Like once someone's let's say Ekman Larson goes down. I always like fantasize that Red Wings could work with like Minnesota, and you can get like you trade Larkin to Minnesota, and you get like Pettersson in a first, and then Vancouver gets Urhoff and whatever all those other players. Like I could saw something like that where you're still getting a center back plus something, But I think he's gone. But like, what do you see as a package? Because I think Dallas is probably your best bet, but now they moved off of Bork. Like, you do want to do it Florida. Vegas has like Trevor Conley, but that's exactly,
Yeah, I think really this trade is not going to happen until this new GM figures out what the heck the direction is for this team. And I think that's also going to obviously affect the return too. If they're still looking for those immediate futures the way that Yzerman wanted, then you're probably going to be looking at more deadlock. If you're looking at, help in the future, you might be seeing one of those trades to the Minnesota Wild with a bevy of first-round picks and prospects. I see it probably somewhere in the middle, and what I'm hoping is that this new GM can come in and kind of have a conversation with Yzerman or with Larkin and see if he can get him to expand the list a little bit, beyond this 4-team list, because unfortunately that is sort of hamstringing them. Now, I can't tell if he's doing that out of a vendetta against Yzerman or if it is sort of a like "F you, I'm out of here" thing in general. Either way, not crazy about it. I got to be honest with you. I think that even if tomorrow he was like, hey, I take it all back, actually, it was just Yzerman that was the problem, I think he's already tarnished a lot of his legacy in Detroit.
You mean like Werenski?
Yeah, well, Werenski's a little different. See, Werenski said he was not sure if he was going to extend 2 years from now, and that's what caused that whole fiasco to go down. Whereas the Larkin thing is, he's 3 years into an 8-year deal, and he's demanding a trade. The entire front office and the organization in general is pretty upset with him, according to Helene St. James. He said, I think his contract was set up in a way that it was extremely front loaded salary wise. So they're kind of seeing it as okay, you got your money and you didn't deliver and now you want out.
Yeah, eat shit. Take our money and then run. That's great. So great, and I will say I don't think Larkin intended to want to be traded. I don't think it was malicious. I don't think I think he wanted to be here. I think he wanted to win a Stanley Cup here and bring back. And so I'm kind of does it all fall on Larkin or Yzerman? I'm it kind of does both. Larkin stopped working in the second part of the year in March and April's because he was either injured, right? Jamie Benn, which by the way would be hilarious if he went to Dallas.
Oh my God. That's the thing that's so funny that he would add Dallas to that list. I'm you want to be the subordinate of the guy who broke your neck. You want to be that guy.
Twice, right?
Okay. I think it was only once, but
but there was
another time.
They injured him another time. It's which would be again just comical, dude. But I'm just I get it. You want to pick winners? Why don't you pick Carolina? They're a winner. They have a shit ton of in Nikishin. They have so many prospects.
Extended to Montreal, they've got a long list of successes. They've got one of the youngest, most exciting cores in the league. You want to be a part of that? You want to be a part of San Jose, a team that is clearly on the come up?
Yeah.
There's so many other players that if he wants a Team USA player, there are so many other teams he could look at. Go to Columbus.
Yeah, I think it does go back. Look at the players that he would be trading to, though. Other places, it's Minnesota. Well, Quinn's there, and Boldy's there, as well as Faber, all USA players. The Chuck brothers are in Florida. Eichel's in Vegas, right? With Hannafin, is Hannafin Canadian?
Hannafin's Vegas. Yeah, I think
is he Canadian though? Or is he American?
No, he's American.
So you have Hannafin, you have Eichel over there, right? You go to Dallas, there's Robertson, and I don't know who else is Ottinger. Yep. So and Dallas is no state, so I'll give you that, or no tax. So
you can go to Boston, you got Charlie McAvoy out there. You could go to Tampa Bay, you get Jake Gensel. There's so many options he could pick.
Yeah.
And yet he's insisting on just a very specific group.
Yeah. I'm kind of
Jack Hughes in New Jersey.
but you have Jack Hughes and then you have Heischer. What's Larkin play third line?
Probably
third line center, right? That's where I was okay with the Heischer Larkin swap. Before the Heischer extended, I was that would work out really well.
That would work out for both teams.
Get
an equivalent player back.
A little older, right? But you save on the cap and everything too. That's kind of where I'm I ideally would like him to go west. at this point, because I know I agree. I think 2 years are gonna be bad. Like I think there's gonna like I think Buffalo. I don't know how long it lasts, right? Because we saw that they had such a long track record of not being in the playoffs. I don't know if they're good now or if they're gonna, because they lose Tuck, they lost like some chunks, right? And so they need the young players to step up. Ottawa, I think Ottawa's a ceiling. I think they're a wild card team at best at their height, even when they had Brady.
I mean, I think they've also kind of downgraded a little bit roster wise too.
Yeah,
you can't, like, Linus Ullmark still hasn't really shown he can be consistent. He had an .891 save percentage last season.
Yeah.
Do we really think that William Eklund is going to replicate the production of Brady Tkachuk?
No.
For some reason, they signed, Andre Burakovsky, who was one of the
they traded for him,
in the NHL last season. Every time he stepped on the ice, it was a net negative offensively for Chicago.
That's crazy. Like, and they paid like a 6th-round pick for him too. Like, it was like,
yeah,
they paid for him. Yeah, which is it's just crazy. And so like I'm kind of like, okay, who could fall off in 2 years? I don't know. Like, I mean, at that point, Matthews might be gone from Toronto, right? Like,
I mean, as far as teams falling off, I mean, maybe Tampa. They're going to be getting pretty old. I mean, by that point,
Florida's going to start getting old.
Victor Hedman's close to retiring. Nikita Kucherov's hitting his like early to mid 30s.
Yeah.
Braden Point's going to be a little older. You're going to get a lot of these guys that are strapped for the cap that are going to have to go out. So I see them going down a little bit. Florida, I think, still has a little bit of gas left in the tank, but Montreal is going to be that top dog for a while.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I thought the come up was going to be. It was like it was going to be Ottawa, Montreal, and Detroit kind of come up and Buffalo at the same time and kind of swap those other ones out. And again, Tampa just staying consistent, but I think they're older. I think they're going to start to fall downward, right? Like maybe not just be second or third, right? Or first or second. Like I could see again. I think Toronto is kind of in the mushy middle right now. I think they're going to be better. They have McKenna and everything, which is but they don't have their next 2 first-round picks, so it's kind of like put her up or shut up in that case. Again, I think Ottawa is a fringy 4 or 5 in the division, maybe at their highest, right? And I just think I think you just got to plan on being not as good. So I'm kind of on the future side, like I'm like for the Larkin trade, I'm like even if Minnesota threw in 2 first-round picks, you're off, and who's the other piece that they keep talking about?
Charlie Schrammel.
Like I was like, okay, so you get 2 third liners, potentially middle 6. We'll call them middle 6, and 2 first-round picks. I'm kind of like,
this is what I'm worried about is this trade happening because Chris Ilitch wants to get it done. I'm worried that Chris is like, I'm getting tired of all this drama. I'm getting tired of all my friends asking these questions. Like, let's just get this trade over with already. I don't even care what the return is at this point. I just need it done.
Yeah. That is
a fear of mine.
Yeah, that's fair. So the only one I could see that's mildly appealing is the Vegas one because they have Trevor Conley. He scored 49. He had 49 points in 46 games. So it was a point per game in the AHL. And then this is in the USHL. He had 78 points in 52 games. Like he's done really well. Supposedly, he has attitude issues and like personality. That was one of the reasons he dropped. At this point, I'm kind of like, I mean, we're already losing one attitude guy. But
I can't help but wonder if a 3-way trade is going to need to happen in order to get something done.
So I assume you think he goes Minnesota.
Let's say he goes to Minnesota, you'd probably need to get a third team involved. My guess is what if it's something like the Seattle Kraken and they throw in like Shane Wright or something of that similarity into the mix. I still do think that both teams need to add in order to make that a happy move for Detroit. I don't think that Shane Wright would be the only piece. But I could see him being like a nice little buy low candidate. I see him, potentially panning out. If he winds up being a bust, then at least he gave it a shot. He took a swing. But I don't know. I could see that. I could see if they really want to do that immediate talent, Elias Pettersson's always an option. There's got to be a couple more disgruntled centers in the NHL. I mean, this is the NHL we're talking about.
Well, that's kind of why I like the idea of getting Pettersson instead. I genuinely like Pettersson. I think so. Like this is my theory, is that teams have cultures, right? Like, so you look at Dallas and Florida and Carolina, Finnish. Like, you look at the Red Wings, Swedish. And the Swedish guys click a lot better and everything. And it's nice to be able to talk in your mother tongue, right? Like, of like, it'd be able to, like, Raymond and Edmonton be able to talk to each other, and then have to, like, try and interpret English, which, again, they're good at English. Like, it's not that it's, like, incapable, but, like, there is something about being Swedish, right? And so I think Pettersson is a point per game player. And I think supposedly the rumor was that they wanted a second round pick and a C-level prospect. I'm like, do it.
I'm in. Yeah. I mean, dude, like, think about like how much better Quinn Hughes played and how he looked the moment he left Vancouver. Think about JT Miller. I mean, JT Miller is kind of a dumpster fire in general, like, PR wise, but he plays a lot better when he leaves Vancouver. I think that there is, like you said, kind of a cultural issue. And I think that bringing Pettersson to somewhere where he can play to his strengths, where, like, you know, I don't want to, like, generalize, but, like, a lot of the greatest Swedish players of all time have played in Detroit. You know, Nick Lidstrom, Daniel Alfredsson, Kronwall. Yeah, I mean, you could go down the list. Like, why not add your name to that legacy? Zetterberg, like, you know. Speaking of, this is slightly related, but Elliot Friedman did just drop an interview probably a couple hours ago, and I don't know if we touched on it, but he did mention that the Red Wings are looking to go from both. They're open to the idea of signing both the president of hockey operations and a GM, like, two different roles.
Oh, nice.
So that goes back to our little Eric Tulsky thing we were talking about. But sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and I agree with that. I think you need someone who. So the problem is a lot of the candidates they're looking at right now are AGMs, and it's like, okay, you're going to get. I don't want to put Hort, because who do you make president? Maybe Doug Armstrong from like St. Louis.
Yeah,
that's the only person I can think that's available. That
you could do Brendan Shanahan.
I'm good. Like, listen, I think bring him as advisor. That's fine. Like, by the way, the advisor doesn't. That's fine. Like, bring him as advisor. I don't care. Like, bring all your buddies. That's okay. But, like, you don't go like Horkoff AGM president. Like, you don't make that big of a jump, right? And so, and I thought, and by the way, I thought what St. Louis was doing was good. I think the way they were just harvesting all these draft picks, I think they were doing a really good job. And I was like, it's going to hit that exponential, because all these guys are going to start hitting. And that's kind of what I want the Red Wings to do, is, like, bring your guys in and, like, hoard these draft. I don't know. I'm just like, I'm losing my mind. My wife is like, why you're talking so much about these things, about hockey?
like I totally get the idea of drafting and developing. I mean, there have been quite a few teams that have won based on that, but that was years ago. This is a different playing field now. I mean, you've got Vegas playing Moneyball every year. You've got Carolina that just wound up, like, winning with the power of friendship. Like, anything is possible. You got to be creative.
Bussy, dude. I mean, they won with a guy named Bussy, dude.
Bussy,
dude. My brother-in-law. I was like, he's like, is that Bussy? I'm like, yeah, it is. It is. Yes, my gay brother-in-law. It is Bussy. He's like, favorite player. I'm like, I get it, man. I get it.
You got no idea.
Yeah, no idea.
What's a great story is that he was, like, an undrafted guy and, like, literally fought his way onto the roster. That Bussy's got power. Yeah. He was in Boston's system, and so he was a waiver. So, like, they talk about he's a waiver claim from Florida. He signed with Florida this last year, and then he got picked up on. So, Carolina signed Caden Primo, put him on waivers. Toronto picked him up. So then Carolina picked up Bussy off of waivers from Florida, and then just wins a Stanley Cup. Crazy. I think they have signed for at 1.7 for 3 years. It's some stupid amount. Like, you're like, how did they Freddie took them all the way, right, for the most part. But yeah, they have Bussy for 1.9 for the next 3 years. Like, that's crazy. That is literally what John Gibson makes for this year. And you know what's crazy is the way that they've managed their salary. They still have some flexibility, because that Jesperi Kotkaniemi contract is among, if not the worst contract in the NHL. And yet they're still able to cook. They were still able to win a Stanley Cup. Like, that didn't stop them. They had $10 million in cap space when they won the Stanley Cup, and they had 4 draft picks. Are you joking? They had 4 first-round draft picks in the next 3 years. They had 4 first-round draft picks. I'm like, That's unreal.
And they literally the only trade they made at the trade deadline was Nicholas Delorier for like a 7th from like Philadelphia or like San Jose. It was something stupid.
That's the power of friendship right there.
Dude,
you know what that does prove to me, though, that you can win a Stanley Cup without one of those like elite 1Cs that you always hear people talk about.
Yeah.
People always expect that you have to have a center like Eichel or Braden Point or Nathan McKinnon, but we've seen now with both Ryan O'Reilly and Sebastian Aho that you don't need that.
Yeah. No, and like and they in the contracts they got like was it Stankoven and Jackson Blake's contracts are now starting, and they're $6 million for 8 years for Stankoven and 5.12 for 8 for like I'm like, oh, imagine getting Ed Kasper for $5 million for the next 8 years, and it's like, and he's not even near the level of those two guys. Like,
yeah, I can't. Honestly, of all the candidates that I think to like bounce back next year, though, I do think Marco Kasper is built for it.
He better.
So he led the team in hits despite the fact that he was had a knee injury through the majority of the season.
Mm-hmm.
He did put up absolutely awful numbers scoring wise.
Yeah,
but the advanced analytics show that all it really was just like a lack of finishing. He was still shooting in those high danger areas. He was playing above average defense, and he also like fluctuated constantly in that lineup. There would be nights where he's playing on the first line, and then there's nights where he's playing 8 minutes on the fourth line.
Dude.
So I think that he needs, number one, consistent time on a consistent line, whether that's on the third line or the first line. And number two, he needs to not be injured. And I think that we will see a rise in production. Now, what that rise winds up being remains to be seen, but his numbers do line up with 2 players. Sorry, I know I'm filibustering.
No, you're good.
His numbers and his play style line up with 2 other players. Sean Couturier of the Philadelphia Flyers, former Selke winner, and Sam Bennett of the Florida Panthers. So if he can turn into either of those players, that is a huge win. That is a knock it out of the park. I think he has the potential to be a Sam Bennett-like player. He just needs to be put in a situation to succeed. Calgary didn't do that with Sam Bennett, and look at him now.
So is that a 2C or 3C?
I'd say about a 2C. He could be
because because to me it was always going to be Larkin, Danielson, Kasper. Like Kasper was going to be a phenomenal 3C, right? Like better than he should be 3C, right? Like playing like power play 2,
like a high end guy.
Yeah, high end, and arguably interchangeable, I'd say. But I think Kasper has the grit to be more of a 3C, whereas Danielson has more of the talent to play a 2C.
I'm wondering if it's like a 2A, 2B type scenario, assuming they both pan out, of course.
You mean 1A, 1B at this point? Because
no, they have to be better than Andrew Kopp. I think we're forgetting someone here.
By the way, Kopp got so much love this year. I love that for him that he did so well with DeBrincat and Kane.
What? Criminally underrated player. Like the reason why he was signed for so long is because one, he's a huge every single player talks about his voice in the locker room. I think he could actually be like a coach or assistant.
Yeah,
coach
he will be. Yeah.
And two, he's just a low event king. It's not that he's not a particularly high goal scorer, but when he's on the ice, not a lot happens around him. He's able to neutralize the other team. He's kind of like, I don't know what you'd call it. He's like white bread.
He's like, I would say he's like a Slavin. In a forward, right? Slavin's a different. He is
Slavin's highest tier, but in that archetype, yeah.
Like in the forwards, it's like if there was a defensive defenseman award, it would be called the Slavin. Which by the way
should happen.
Is also kind of problematic if it's like, oh, you got the Slavin. It feels like almost like you can't say slave.
I wonder if there is I guess you could do a Lidstrom award, because Lidstrom was always that big shutdown guy too.
Yeah.
If you need a full-time defensive defenseman award.
Beat the drum. So if I was commissioner, defensive defenseman award and going a 1 to 8.
I'm also looking up to see if they did rig the NHL draft for Connor Bedard, because I still do believe that.
I don't disagree. I'm not super on that, but I'm not. When
you're surrounded by them all day, you start coming up with ideas,
dude. Yeah, you're like they don't deserve him, dude. So So just to go crazy, is there anything else I want to hit? Because I'm gonna go off the wall for something. If you want to,
here's my thing that I hope that this next GM does. I hope they just offer sheet Adam Fantilli, or
I was gonna say offer sheet Connor Bedard. Yeah.
Well, they're almost certainly gonna match, but like,
yeah,
fuck it. Start your GM tenure like that. Go boom. Yeah. We're different. New man in the house.
Dude, the price of some of the offer sheets is stupid. I think you can offer $1.5 million and it costs you nothing.
Yeah.
Like, just start stealing players. Like,
that's what St. Louis did to Edmonton last year. I mean, they got Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway for cheap.
Yeah.
I think it was
for second and third round picks, dude. It was like former first round picks.
Those are the guys you should be targeting free agent or offer sheet wise.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think Florida has $1 million in cap space. But think there's so many like RFAs. Like, I think it'd be so much fun. Like would you Colorado is actually over the cap space already, which is kind of crazy to me. But like, how did no one offer sheet Bork? Because he went for a second and a third round pick, and I'm like, and Lyubushkin, and like I'm like, okay, like Lyubushkin came back. I'm like, I would have done it. Like, I would have done like it was the first, second, third. I might do that. Yeah. Like, you're gonna find something like that? Like, probably not. Like, I'm just offer sheet people. I like the problem is also, like, if you offer sheet like Bedard right now or Fantilli, you're not a Fantilli away is the issue. Like
I mean, what would you need to add? All right, so let's say you do offer sheet. Let's say Fantilli signs and he joins the club. So you've got your first line center figured out. Really, all you have to do is just kind of fill in the blanks from there.
Is Danielson a second line center?
We're gonna find out.
Pedersen. Well, I know Daniel. So I'm going to assume Pedersen doesn't go for a second and a CeeLo pocket prospect. But could you do it for a first and a Danielson?
Well, that's assuming we have our first.
Yeah, you wouldn't have first. Never mind. You could trade. You'd have a first from a Larkin trade.
Yep.
You'd have a first from a Larkin trade, right?
Okay.
So him and Danielson. That and Danielson go out for Pedersen.
I'm in.
Right,
you're selling me on this real hard right now.
Yeah.
Then DeBrincat, you get MBN in one of those top 6 wing spots. You've got Raymond up there.
I think
all you got to do is just kind of plug and play a guy.
I think you move MBN to the left side and put him on the first line.
Interesting. Okay, so I was going DeBrincat, Fantilli, Raymond, and then on the second line you go insert player here, Pedersen, MBN.
I think that I think your first line would be too elite. I'm big on distributing the
top heavy.
Yeah. Like, because if DeBrincat brings the like scoring and crashing the net, crash and burn. Right? He'll fight, he'll dig. That's kind of like where I see MBM doing. Like, I think putting MBM on the top line brings up his floor. Right, like, and is whereas DeBrincat raises the ceiling on the second line, and he already had good chemistry with Kopp, right? So then you put like Finney on that line too, speedy, right? Like he brings the speed there, right? And then you got DeBrincat with some firepower, and Kopp is there defensively responsible, right? Raymond's defensively responsible.
You could put Casper on a wing and make him sort of like a dog at that point, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, there's a lot you could do. There's a lot of fun you could be had.
Casper's your third line center there, right? Unlike moving forward.
Chris Illich, if you're listening to this podcast, ignore everything Brad said about you. We love you. Hire us.
Listen. I will build that building for you next to the LCA for you if you want.
Oh my God, the District Detroit.
Dude,
maybe that's why the Wings haven't gone spending, is they're saving up all that money for District Detroit.
That's it, dude. I downloaded the app and everything, dude. I'm waiting for District Detroit to go from my phone to my has a kitty.
Here's our mascot.
Is it? What's their name?
His name's Jimmy.
Jimmy, I love that. I have Oliver.
Much like Jimmy Howard.
Nice. We got Oliver, the orange cat. So.
Oh.
Hi, buddy. So.
He just loves to be a part of a podcast whenever.
I get it, dude. I get it. He's the podcat.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
You can tell him a dad. so yeah, I agree. I think you just, because throw caution to the wind. You got some players now. Like, maybe make it more attractive, right? Like, I don't know. At this point, I'm kind of like, I just want to be competitive. Like,
I don't think that we're in rebuild phase, and I think anybody who thinks that it's rebuild phase is not thinking it through. I think that it is. We're in what did Greg from the Grind Line called it a reset. So I don't mind that. It's sort of a retool.
So rebuild to me, as I go by the Holland definition, is 8 to 10 years. And retool is a 2 to 4.
Yeah,
and with 4 being like wild card spot, like, you know, you're
fighting for a wild card spot.
Yeah.
Okay, I like the way you think.
Yeah. So and I think this is a 2-year retool where they're fighting for it. And again, my biggest fear is that you tear down too much, that you scorn Raymond and Seider, and I'm terrified of that.
I think actually that they're in a pretty different situation than Larkin was, where Larkin was kind of around for a much longer period of time. He was much later in his career when the Yzerman addition appeared. You know, he was not as cute. I take that back. I think he was younger.
He'd been 23 when
so right around the same age as Raymond then. I think that the situation's a little different. I think that when Yzerman came in, that was when the team was about to bottom out. Whereas right now they're pretty close. I'd say they're fairly close. I think that this new GM can get on the same page as both of them and kind of figure out, like, hey, this is what I'm thinking vision-wise. If you want to be a part of it, great. If not, let me know, and we'll figure something out. They've still got some term left.
Well, dude, I'm looking at Seider. Seider has a 10-team no-trade list after he's done with his RFA, which is like Canada and California. And then same with Raymond. Raymond has a 10-team no-trade list. So, like, that's kind of where I think is the smart thing, where you're like, I do not want to trade you.
You're not leaving. You're staying.
Yeah. It's like, you can't quit. You're fired type thing, right? Like, I'm okay with, like, again, and I by no means am I saying trade Raymond. By no means am I saying like trade Seider. I think I would love to see them in the rafters. Like, I love Seider. I said the second he made the team, when he took the puck away from Kucherov, I said, captain.
Yep.
I said captain right there. And I was like, it's going to be it will be a Yzerman Lidstrom thing, where Yzerman was captain for forever, and then Lidstrom was captain for like 5-6 years. And then, you know, but like they were, like, to me, like, it was going to be a passing the torch, in my opinion. And now it's going to be a passing the torch. So
it looks like the torch was maybe fumbled, and that Moritz Seider is going to need to pick it up and carry the flame.
So 2 things. One, when the announcement came today and it said change in leadership, I was like, oh, they're giving the C to Seider. I was like, duh.
The exact same thing.
And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then I read the article. I was like, what? And so, and also, do you think they pick Seider this year, or like, do they let him be captain, or do they give it a year?
So I think they probably give it a year, because, you know, the fact of the matter is there still hasn't been that trade. The elephant in the room still hasn't been addressed yet. I think I was mentioning this in Hockey Town Rundown, but I think the absolute funniest thing they could do to wrap up this Larkin fiasco is when he's traded, they don't really do any fanfare. They don't do a welcome back video. It's just a graphic that says welcome back Dylan Larkin, and then the camera cuts to him, and, you know, people are doing the chorus of boos, and then they move on, and he's never mentioned again.
You mean like a Marner thing?
Sort of. Yeah. I think, like, watch what they do with Brady Tkachuk the next time Florida comes into Ottawa.
Oh,
it'll be like that,
dude.
I love what did you see what they did about the jerseys?
Oh, the return, or the
I think we need that.
Oh, I'm all about being salty, dude. My wife got me a Centennial Larkin jersey, and I'm like, okay, well, I'll keep this
jersey.
I'll keep the C and just change it to Seider. You know, like I'm just so bummed, like, because it's so, like I said, I have an Yzerman jersey that's literally like 25 plus years old. I have a Larkin jersey, and I'm like, and my wife just got it for me for this past Christmas, and I'm like, so yeah, I'm just like,
I can't buy. I have to ban myself from buying jerseys, because every time I do, something happens. I got a Henrik Zetterberg jersey when I was younger. He retired. I got a Justin Verlander jersey. He got traded. I got an Aiden Hutchinson jersey for the Lions. He got injured, and he was out for the whole season.
Jeez, yeah.
So I was like, all right.
I have a Sharks Carlson jersey. So
that's sweet.
Yeah.
Those Sharks jerseys are nice.
Dude, yeah, they're so cool. And then I have a Jason Robertson Dallas jersey. Those are my other 2 teams. So it's
That'll go Wings,
Sharks, Dallas. So and I never cheer against them in the playoffs until the end. So
yeah.
So like, yeah.
Well,
anyways,
I think it's been pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you coming on, man. This is exciting. So tell everyone where you can find you.
Yeah, you can visit octopusthrower.com to see any of the content that we write. We tend to write anywhere from 3 to a billion articles a day. I try to keep things updated as much as I can. You can find me on your social media of choice, mostly on Twitter at 313hockey. And if you give me a follow, shoot me a message or shoot me a I don't know, tweet. What do they call them these days?
I'd still tweet. It's Twitter. It's not X. So
yep, it's Twitter.
Yeah, definitely. And Jake will engage. We were literally talking today, so he will absolutely engage. So
I fall into the trap of too much rage bait. So
yeah. Well, that's why I was like, you would tweet me, and I'd be like 30 minutes later because I'm like, I'm just not actively on Twitter like you, and I'm happy that you're as active you are, and you're killing out there,
do it for work. Yeah, this job of mine requires me to be on it pretty much most of the day because if I miss any news or if I'm late by like even a half hour, that's clicks, that's revenue.
Yeah, that's it, man. So, well, I appreciate it. Go check it out his page, and we'll post it. And yeah, I'm excited. Thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
No problem.